unceded territories of the Squamish Nation. We have an agenda before us. Are there any changes or amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, I would look for approval of the agenda. Councillor D'Andretti. Do I have a seconder for the, thank you, Mayor White. All in favor? Thank you, that's carried. I would look for the minutes of the special council meeting for October 29th, 2024 to be adopted. Councillor D'Andretti, seconded by Mayor White. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. We now have bylaws before us. The first is the business license bylaw amendment 66-13-2024, that this bylaw be adopted. I'm looking for a motion for that. Mayor White, seconded by Councillor Lumley. Any further discussion on that bylaw? All in favor? That carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda is 4.2, which is an official community plan amendment bylaw 98537-2024 and zoning amendment bylaw number 106582-2024 for 528 Marine Drive. We have had the public hearing on this. We are looking for a recommendation to give this bylaw third reading. And we also have the opportunity to adopt this, which would allow this project to go forward. Mayor White, I see you have your hand up. Did you have a comment?
Sure, I'll move third reading and adoption.
Thank you. Do I have someone to second that? Councillor Lumley. Any further discussion? Councillor D'Andretti.
Thanks, Chair. I have no concerns with the OCP amendment, but I have concerns with the zoning amendment because this particular lot, and first of all, I understand the restriction that this lot is a small lot, so I understand we need to support, provide a variance. I'm even willing to give up the view protection on the foreshore, on the rear of the lot, because I understand it's going to be very difficult. But the fact that now that we're going to have a wall, almost 4-story wall, and the building, the setback is only 2 meters on the west south, I believe is the right location. And that's southeast. And I thought it was so fast, but okay. And that's my concern with the zoning. If there was a way of the building following the shape of the sidewalk, but it will be a big encroachment. And the fact that there's no 45 degrees, it's going to be a solid 4-story wall, basically. And that's my concern.
Okay, I would, to my thinking, what you're suggesting actually falls under form and character. What we approved in this zoning bylaw amendment is that we would allow a structure to be built on this property in the form of a duplex. And form and character, to my mind, and I would look to staff, that this is something that I believe the architect and the proponent of the project could take into consideration with the concerns you've raised. Do staff have anything that they would care to add to that, to my thought? So Councillor D'Andretti's concern would fall under form and character and could be dealt with under that category?
Thank you, Chair. So the setback is 2 meters for in the zone, and also a flood exemption has been approved subject to the zoning amendment. So at this point, there's very little wiggle room to change that just because of the narrow depth of the lot. But that would be part of the zone.
Well, my understanding is the flood exemption is, it is okay, it will be to build whatever, up to 6.5 meters, I believe, and is the responsibility of the owner if something happens in the future. So we were okay. The issue to be with the 2 meter setback, and it's not the 2 meters all through the lot, because on the other side, the lot is a little bit
Northeast?
northeast, there's a lot of room with the sidewalk. The problem is on the southeast, it's right there. It actually, according to the drawings, it seems that it's even less than 2 meters because there's the room, the storage room, that even, it seems to pass the 2 meters. And that's my concern. So independent of the floodplain, it's this corner.
Okay, Mayor White?
Yeah, I support this. Got a lot of echo, I guess I'm just gonna have to get used to. I recall that when this, a previous owner brought this before us, it was a larger development, and we're actually needing the public hearing to make it smaller. I mean, it's which was what the neighborhood wanted. The immediate neighbors opposed the previous proposal, largely because of the height. These new owners have responded to those concerns that both council and the neighbors brought forward. So I commend them for doing that. I think this does fit much better that way in addressing those concerns regarding connections to. I mean, we already approved the flood exemption, but I do want to address some misleading statements that were made, and that is that the floodplain exemption process is actually a really great way to make sure that buildings are built safely, so that there is mitigation for floods built into them, approved by professional engineers, professional scientists who have to do the exemption process triggers a report by those professionals to ensure that the building is safe and ensure that there are proper setbacks for the particular area. They actually go deeply into the design and go look closely at the property and figure that out. And these property owners have in their design have followed everything that the professionals have asked of them in order to ensure that sea level rise is addressed here in the future, and to ensure that that floodplain concerns are addressed as well. So I commend them on doing that as well.
Thank you, Mayor White. I would note that the architect is in the room and is probably, has heard concerns made. And is there any other discussion on this? I would call the question. We have a motion on the table that was moved and seconded, so I would call the question. All those in favor for giving this bylaw third reading and adoption, so moved? Those, okay. Anyone against? Thank you. Did you want that recorded? Okay, thank you. That motion carries. Okay, we now have zoning, item 4.3, zoning amendment bylaw 65-81, 2024 for Billy's Walk. And the recommendation here is that the zoning amendment bylaw 1065-81, 2024, Billy's Walk, be given third reading.
With that,
Thank you, Mayor White. Anyone to second that? Councillor Lumley, thank you. Any discussion? Councillor D'Andretti.
Thanks, Chair. I think I would like just a clarification on how we move forward because we received feedback from the community. The majority of overall, the project has received good feedback, but clearly there's concern with form and character. And I think there's a lot of examples, even given by the Gibsons Landing Heritage Society, of options that the developer can have in order to.
But if I may interject, to the point of what we're voting on now is the zoning amendment bylaw, not
Sorry.
form and character.
just,
And
sorry, can I just ask for a point of order, maybe? I feel like our discussion, or there are questions being raised about it. And so it would be helpful to hear from staff to clarify the difference between, what can still be done with form and character versus what we're voting on today. So I feel like Councillor D'Andretti is in order in just bringing this up, because I think it would help for the public to hear and for council to hear, just reminding us of how that process works, what we're voting on today versus.
okay, thank you, Mayor White.
Yeah.
With that, and we'll turn to staff.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the last meeting on council meeting on October 8th, I'm just going through the minutes here. Second reading was given for the zoning bylaw. The development permit for form and character was issued subject to the adoption of the zoning bylaw, which is the zoning bylaw is to change the zone, the land use. Right now it's a comprehensive development area, zone 1, and this would go to an RM8, which is a multifamily zone. So the current zone right now allows for a single family building on each of the lots. There's 4 lots right now. So you're going a density of 4 to 49 units now, which would be apartments and 2 fourplexes. Now, a public information meeting was also requested at that October 8th meeting, and that was held last week. And the feedback was collected and it was put on the agenda for today. So today, the decision you're making is whether or not you're happy with that change in zone. So whether or not you're happy with going from a single family to having multifamily on those properties. Thanks.
Thank you, Planner Thomas. It's Mayor White.
Yeah, so can we get some clarification? What I was really looking for there is some clarification on if there are form and character concerns. Some have been brought up in this process. And I've heard in some of the input we're getting from the public that the developers team has been very amenable to hearing those suggestions. We did send the Heritage Society's notes. We adopted them as something we wanted to be as guidelines to be looked at for this development and other future developments. Where is this all integrated in the process? I think that's the big question that I think the public is asking us and that Councillor D'Andretti is asking too.
Thank you, Mayor White. Now we'll turn to Director Stats, please.
Thank you. So yeah, I think it really depends on what the specific form and character concerns are. So the zone itself outlines what the setbacks are. So, obviously the use, the density, the setbacks, the lot coverage, and the maximum building height. So if there are specific form and character considerations around those, parts of the zone, this would be the time to tweak it to accommodate the form and character better, if that makes sense. That makes sense?
It does, I believe. Councillor Lumley. You seem to be on mute, Councillor Lumley. We still can't hear you. There you
Can you hear me now?
Now we can.
Okay. I think this is just my own listening to this conversation. I think there's some confusion as to form and character as far as the building itself, its outline or specific, like, I mean, maybe Councillor DeAndre and Mayor White are talking about, you know, specific design as far as, you know, colors and roof lines and windows and so on and so forth. Like, I think that's what they're getting at. I don't think they're necessarily saying, hey, listen, it's not the setbacks, the height, or any of those issues. It's the actual design itself. Like, I think what they're asking is if you pass this zoning amendment, they can basically build what's been presented to council to this date and what was presented at the public information session. I think that's what they're asking. That if we approve the zoning now, they can go ahead, they have their design, their form and character permit basically handed to them after this. I think that's what you want.
It's really interesting to me because, first of all, you have hearing from
Any further comment from staff?
how there are bomb threats that are shutting down.
So from what you were saying, Director Stats, at this point, would we be looking for a motion to say that on approval of this zoning amendment, we would like the proponent to consider the feedback they've had from the public hearing and the information that has been provided by the Heritage Society to reflect in the further development of the building the concerns that have been raised with respect to seaside character and some of the other issues. Is that what we should be looking for here?
I would suggest checking in with the applicant to make sure they understand what direction you're giving. Do you have any, is that all right with you?
Would you like to speak to this matter, Mr. DeVries? Please do.
Yeah, so
Just push the little button. Super, thank you.
yeah, so thank you for the discussion. Our office is fully on board with that. We realize that form and character has been an issue and that it's actually really difficult for the town to really define what is seaside character. Every town that has seaside character has a different seaside character. But I also want you to know that at a certain point, we've spent a ton of time and our clients' time and money, right? At a certain point, we have to get a signal that we can move forward. And we have no problem going forward with conditions, right? Because we've heard what the Heritage Society is doing, right? We work with them on Stonehurst as well, right? So from my point of view, we established a good relationship and we like to keep it like that. And also, we have actually quite an amazing office. And for instance, yesterday, I spoke with my business associate, Patrick Warren. We just kind of went through what would be options to go through. There's a lot of design that we like to go through. Like for us to say now you have your zoning permitted, and because the town does the advisory design panel really early in the process, which I think you all recognize it would be better if that would have been done later in the process, right? But our client needs to know that basically we're on the right track. We have to move forward, and we certainly like to work in detail with the Heritage Society, for sure. No issue at all. But that doesn't mean that we can guarantee an outcome, because I think there will be lots of people with different opinions, and then you go through the official community plan review. It's actually the same consultant as we have on Bowen Island, Michael Haney, right? So, but what I'm saying is that for us, we're a design-oriented office, and our clients have this far I think our clients have been amazing, giving us so much trust and getting, if you see everything that you're already getting, what we're proposing, right? And why would we suddenly be not interested? Of course we're interested. We wanted that design to be as good as possible.
Thank you, sir.
Deputy Mayor, I know it's not normal, but could I speak to this issue, because there's an overarching issue here that hasn't been brought up.
Right now, we're just discussing this zoning amendment, sir. And we have received
Had a public hearing.
And there won't.
It keeps referring about we had a public hearing.
No, we did not have a public hearing. We had an information session, sir. And we did receive we have received your correspondence.
Information meeting, and
Respectfully, sir, we have received your correspondence on numerous occasions with respect to this project.
correspondence. This is the fact that I don't believe what's put on the agenda today, which when I read it this morning, because I've only been back in the country for less than 24 hours, it presents as if it's the council's information, and it's the developer had this information meeting. It wasn't a public hearing.
It was.
And what's on the agenda, I don't believe is appropriate, because there's some comments with no names.
They,
don't know
sir,
where people are from. And
the
We have a
information.
motion on the table here, don't we?
I'm sorry, sir. We have received your information. The information in the agenda is redacted because of law and privacy
I
issues.
think that's fine. I'm talking about all those notes and comments.
Those were from the public information meeting that was held by the developer.
That means nothing, because there's nothing associated with them. And I with respect.
It's up to us
Thank
to
you
make
for-
a decision, Chair. We've got a motion on the table, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I understand your concern, sir, but I would respectfully ask, you, sir,
Stood up and he was able to address the meeting.
he's the proponent of the project, sir. And we were asking for clarification from him. We're not asking you to currently debate this issue with us.
I
That's
just
up to
wanted
count.
make it clear,
We're perfectly aware of your position, sir.
it's not my position. There hasn't been.
Sir,
We're still in a meeting?
excuse me, sir,
Hey, we've got a meeting here.
respectfully.
Some of us are very constrained with time and where we are, and we've got a motion. And now more people want to put their hands up, like this is.
So
I feel I've been shut down. Thank you.
I'm sorry you feel that way, sir.
Please, can I speak too?
No, I'm sorry, Mrs. Bonkoff.
We are never allowed to speak.
This isn't,
To get to-
I think I have my hand up. I've had my hand up for a while here, and
sorry, Mayor White. Did you?
okay. So to get back to, we have a motion on the table, correct?
That's correct, sir.
We had another discussion that I think I'll probably bring up as a second motion after we pass this about design elements, and we may need to hone that a little bit to what's viable. But yeah, as Councillor, I mean, we've received a lot of public input into this proposal. It's been on the town's agendas for quite a while now. It's been out in the news. We've been receiving correspondence, and everyone on council's been reading that correspondence. And we've certainly heard loud and clear from Mr. Graves. Mr. Graves, you have not been shut down at all. We've I've read every word you've sent in, believe me. And I want to go back to the harbor plan. I mean, we're talking about this land use here has a lot of history. It doesn't even go back 10 years to the update of the official community plan. It goes all the way back to the harbor plan, which was a few years before that. And this land was identified at that time by the community as being appropriate for more density. And that's what we're voting on today. That this is a place that's a spot in town that's walkable to Lower Gibson's businesses, to amenities. And I personally, after a lot of going back and forth too, I think, and some of the personnel on this development having been part of another nearby one, I think a lot of really great work has taken place here to make it fit with Gibsons, and including the active transportation walkability through the property, including ensuring that people who are currently living very affordably in one unit on the one building on the property are going to be rehoused affordably in the new development, including a contribution to public washrooms, which we need nearby. And as Councillor DeAndrade said earlier, a lot of the feedback we've received has been positive, and I think that it goes to show that and I understand that I understand Mr. Graves and some other people in town are unhappy with this. I don't think that's the sentiment of the town overall. That's not what I get from the input, and it's up to us as councillors to weigh the kind of written input we get, whether it's emails, whether it's letters, whether it's people writing things at a public information meeting, and we do that, and we know, some of these people. Some people are filling out a form without their name on it at a public information meeting, may not even live in the town, whereas somebody else may be sending us emails who lives right next door, and we do need to give that a lot of weight, and we need to think of all these different factors and that is our job when we have to make these decisions. That's all I have to say for now. Again, I have found this developer to be very responsive through the 3 readings of this to concerns that have been brought up by the public and concerns that are brought up by council. And I'm confident that when it comes to some of the design elements that we've heard a lot about in the last, going back, council's even brought this back up at second reading, but the design elements with seaside village character and continue to be brought up at the public information meeting. These are things we can continue to work through, and we're getting good response, and I expect the same on that feedback. But that'll be for my subsequent motion.
Thank you, Mayor White. You mentioned the subsequent motion you're referring to is with respect to this project and seaside character, and is that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Councillor DeAndrade.
Thank you, Chair. It's just a clarification on the interior side lot line. On the Stonehurst side, I understand it's around 1.24, but on the north side, with the bike, the active transportation, it goes to 3 meters. Am I correct? And so what happens at the upper part of the lot? It continues to be 3 meters, or it reduces to 1.24?
Staff?
I'm just bringing up the drawings. So on the upper portion, on that, I guess you would call it the north side, the setback is 2.84 meters.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this? I'll call the question. All in favor? That carries. Thank you. We are now, Mayor White, you had a motion you wanted to make at this point.
Okay, yeah, I want to make the motion that the applicant integrate, that the applicant, okay, so I didn't get the,
If I can interject, I think I know what's on your mind. I would suggest that we make a motion that the applicant work with the direction of the Gibsons Heritage Society and staff to incorporate the design concerns with respect to this project to ensure seaside character.
what do we mean by direction?
Well, to date, the Heritage Society has provided the developer and the architect with some guidelines and direction on seaside character, including color and materials.
I'll make sure, I'll make that motion with the word direction replaced by guidance.
Okay.
Also,
Rebecca, were you able to capture that?
I'm not sure I got it exactly right. I'm pretty sure I don't. So I'm going to give it a try and let's work on it so I can make sure everyone knows exactly what they're voting on. I've got that the applicant be directed to work with the Gibsons Heritage Society and staff, or to
Yes.
staff to be guided in form and character, and that's as far as I got, and I didn't quite get it right. I know I don't have it right. So
Okay.
give me a hand.
That the architect and developer work with the Gibsons Heritage Society and staff.
On integrating seaside village design elements.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor White. Does that work?
Yep.
Thank you, Rebecca. Does anyone, Councillor D'Andretti has seconded that. Councillor Lumley, you have your.
Yeah, I think it'd be important that that the architects already said they have worked with and are continuing to work with the heritage.
Yes.
So it would be to continue to work with them. That motion reads like we're like ordering him to
No, and good point, Councillor Lumley. The architect has been, they reacted to the initial feedback from the ADP very positively. There was input from the ADP with heritage designation that was reflected, and they've reacted to that. So, all we can do is encourage that they continue to work.
continue. That was all I thought.
Yeah,
we should
no,
add
because,
to that.
we applaud the fact that the architect has gone to great lengths, and so any further comment? I will call okay, Councillor D'Andretti seconded. So with the amended agenda or motion as presented, calling the question, all in favor? That carries. Thank you. And, I totally appreciate this is a big project for a very sensitive area of our community. And, we're all working very hard to ensure that it's something at the end of the day everyone can be proud of and say, wow, look at what's come to our community, and we've all been part of making it happen. So at this point, I would look to move on to item 4.4, which is official community plan and zoning amendment update for lots A and C Gibsons Way. Recommendations are that the plan amended bylaw 98538/2024 be given second reading, and that the zoning amendment bylaw number 1065-83/2024 be given second reading, and that a public hearing for bylaw number 985-38, 2024, and bylaw number 1065-83, 2024, on lots A and C, Gibsons Way, be scheduled for December 3rd at 3:15 p.m. Looking for someone to move that. Councillor D'Andretti, are you moving that? Okay, and someone to second that? Councillor Lumley, thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor D'Andretti.
I think the situation here is very similar to the other two projects in the context of process. So thanks, Ms. White, for the clarification. I think it helps, even for councilors. Sometimes can be a little bit confusing. But in the process, I would like also to do the same thing after we pass this motion, another motion, or maybe we add to this motion the same, about form and character, if it's possible, so we can move forward with no one else.
I believe what you're looking for here is that the developer sort of support the recommendations of the ADP with respect to this project. So what we can do at this point is approve this and then make a motion secondary to it, if everyone's in agreement. Is there any further discussion on this motion? If not, calling the question, all in favor? Thank you. Councillor Andretti, you wish to, that carried. So with that in place, you would like to make a motion?
Yes.
And have you drafted something, or?
Well, I think actually the ADP has already provided recommendations, so it will be, I don't know if council is ready to endorse the recommendations by the ADP. It might not be. This was on April 17, the ADP has done recommendations for this.
So your motion, in effect, would be that the developer sort of embrace the recommendations of the ADP as this project continues?
Yes, but in here they don't specify, they talk about green space, but what I would like, which is really important for a residential building, or for basically 4 residential buildings, if we account for the one in Mahon, is that there's a space, a fenced space for toddlers, a playground, like a natural playground.
Okay, I see a head nodding in the audience. So with the gist of this motion, I would look for someone to second it.
Do we not have a motion on the floor already?
We approved the.
Okay, right.
We approved the zoning amendment update, but what Councillor D'Andretti was looking for was a motion for the developer to support the recommendations of the ADP with respect to this project, and including in that a small fenced area for small children to be able to play out of harm's way.
With adult seating as well, because they have to watch the kids, or toddlers.
So
I have a problem because I don't have those recommendations in front of me. Where are they on our agenda?
They were from previously submitted information that was presented to council on this.
I'm totally unprepared to vote on something that's
Okay.
not.
Because
I'm not looking at something from April.
Can we read?
It was from actually the 7th of May, 2024. The ADP advises council to support the OCP amendments to high density, and that the ADP advises council to support the proposed zoning amendment, and further that the ADP advises council to support the subject to the following changes: encouraging use of more colors and material to enhance the buildings, encourage the introduction of an outdoor amenity space, explore ways to reduce impermeable surfaces and encourage more green space, explore ways to reduce sound transference from the daycare from the daycare to the residents in the neighboring buildings and 101 apartment building. So, and, looking at the developer who's sitting in the room, I don't think, I don't perceive there would be an objection on his part with that.
Certainly not for the community, or the strata amenity space. We're open up, some of that is vague of how you determine, sound transference is an abstract concept to try to write into.
Oh, sorry. Because we have two members in faraway spaces.
Is this on?
Yep.
The developers have no concerns with creating an amenity space on the site, and we've already spoken to the architects directly about that, because that came up at the community conversation about a month back, and we agreed with it, so we're looking to do that. I'd be a little bit more concerned about trying to write in anything that spoke specifically to sound transference, because how do you write that up in a manner that is clear enough here to give guidelines to the architect that doesn't handcuff them in some abstract way that is open to interpretation?
I recall from when we had the original meeting way back when, there was an issue that was brought up about sound, and I think what came up at that meeting was because there were speed bumps, vehicles passing over the speed bumps, particularly people coming out of the 101 at closing time, or people going into the ATM at the Bank of Montreal after hours, going over the speed bumps, it was causing noise. So I think the concern is that anything you can do with the landscaping and the paving to ensure that, you can do as much as possible to, deal with that. So it's, in a lot of ways that's logical. What was done behind your existing building where the clinic is, and there are speed bumps there, and, some people just don't take them at speed. Mayor White.
I don't think there's much to be concerned about with those recommendations. I mean, there's nothing for the ADP to be asking the developer to give some consideration for, sounds, noise mitigation for people who will be living in his own buildings or hopefully looking to buy units in his buildings. I mean, it's something that I'm sure they're logically working on. And I didn't see anything in there that was really, trying to measure sound or anything like that. It's just, the ADP was just bringing it up as I mean, these people are architects themselves, and they're raising that as a logical issue that would need to be looked at. I do have to ask though, did we not already, this has come to council before, the ADP's recommendations. Did we not endorse them by motion before? It doesn't matter to me if we do today or not, because these are all.
Well, if I may, sir, what I would suggest is that we just ask the developer to embrace the recommendations of the ADP. And just leave it at that simple.
Sure. Yeah, I thought we already did, but let's do it again. Okay. I'll second that motion if it hasn't been seconded. I mean, there.
Director of Planning, Katie?
So no recommendation has been made, or no resolution has been made on the development permit at this time for this development. The plan was that if this was to be adopted, we would bring a separate report back to council to ask for issuance of the development permit, and at that time we could make sure that the drawings have integrated the ADP's information.
Okay, alrighty. I think that solves it, and it would be much cleaner. The developer's aware of what the ADP is looking for and what's been brought up by council, so let's just leave it for that further meeting. Councillor Lumley.
Yeah, I tend to agree with like Mayor White. It's just like, it seems like we're kind of, I don't understand why the developer wouldn't try and incorporate any of the ideas or the suggestions from the ADP. I think we've gone through this already. And we didn't make a motion maybe, but we just endorsed that if he could do everything with it, and he's already agreed to that. So anyway, I just think that we're
Thank you,
getting a
Councillor
little
Lumley.
too, I don't know. We're micromanaging like every single facet of every development. I just don't want to go down that road.
Thank you. Councillor Dandretti.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question regarding, I know this building, it's very close to White Tower, and people will be looking forward to go there. So if there will be any alternative safe route for residents to go through, because there's a lot of parking and so on.
To your point, the developer has already agreed to create a pathway through the property. I think that's something that can be brought up as when we have this further meeting.
Through you, Deputy Mayor, there is a 4-meter right-of-way that the developer has committed to as part of the OCP and zoning amendment.
Okay. We did pass that, didn't we?
No.
The last motion needs to be put to a vote. It's been moved and seconded, but it hasn't been voted.
Okay, with respect to the last motion, then, I think this is an issue that's going to come up at a future meeting. So I would suggest at this point we just defeat the motion that's currently on the table. Okay, so I'll call the question on the motion. All in favor? No one? No, we're going to defeat it here and bring it up when we discuss this project further, once the permits are being issued.
Fine.
Okay? So calling the question on the motion, all in favor? All opposed? Thank you. Motion defeated. Okay. Thank you, sir. Yeah, no, appreciate you being here and your cooperation. We now move on to 4.5, proposed amendments to bylaw notice enforcement bylaw, 1125-18 environmental protection bylaw, number 94301. Recommendations that the environmental protection bylaw 94301-2024 be given first, second, and third reading, and that bylaw notice enforcement bylaw 1125-18-2024 be given first, second, and third reading. Looking for someone to, Mayor White, seconded by Councillor Dandretti. Any discussion on this? Mayor
Yeah, I
White?
just wanted to move it. This is great and important to be strengthening our environmental protections. I think the report is really clear, and we should just go ahead.
Seeing no further question, calling the motion. All in favor? The motion carries. Thank you. Moving on now to 5.1, Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes from October 21st, 2024. Recommendation that the draft minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee meeting held on the 21st of October, 2024 be received for information. Councillor Dandretti, I'll second that. All in favor? Thank you. Administration reports. We now have the Mayor and Director of Corporate and Legislative Services 2025 appointments for Deputy Mayor, SCRD, and Committee Liaisons. The recommendations before us is that Councillor Dandretti be appointed to serve as Deputy Mayor of the Town of Gibsons until December 31st, 2025, that Mayor White be reappointed to serve as the Town of Gibsons representative to the Sunshine Coast Regional District Board, and Councillor Lumley be reappointed to serve as the Towns of Gibsons alternate representative to the board, and that Councillor Kroll be reappointed as the liaison to the Advisory Design Panel for 2025 calendar year, and that Councillors Lumley and Dandretti be appointed to the Gibsons and District Fire Protection Commission, and further that council liaisons be appointed as follows. The Kitsum House Sound Biosphere Initiative, Councillor Dandretti, the Gibsons Harbor Authority, Mayor White, and the alternate, Councillor Thompson. Sunshine Coast Affordable Housing Society, Action Table, Mayor White. Gibson Senior Society, Councillor Thompson. Sunshine Coast Regional Accessibility Advisory Committee, Councillor Kroll. Liaison and the alternate, Councillor Dandretti. Sunshine Coast Chamber of Commerce, Councillor Dandretti, and the Sunshine Coast Joint Child Care Council, Councillor Kroll. Look for a motion to move that. Councillor Dandretti and Mayor White calling the question. Any discussion on this issue? Seeing none, calling the question. All in favor? That carries. And at this point, our next special council meeting will be held on Tuesday, November 19th at 1 o'clock, and the next regular council meeting will be held on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024 at 3:30 p.m. At this point, I would look for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Dandretti, seconded by Mayor White. All in favor? That carries. I'd like to thank everyone for their time today. Our student council, you didn't get to say too much, but thank you for being here. I think this was your first public hearing, so welcome to that. And I'd like to thank everyone in the audience for taking the time to be here with us this afternoon.